this whole process.
Yeah. And one of the things, if you signed up when you came in, we have a list. We're building a list of the folks who are here tonight and the other communities where we're reaching out, we're speaking with folks, and people who are concerned are coming out. We're building a list so when these things happen, we can be sending you alerts to let you know something happened. I mean, that's our goal, is to build, you know, a great opportunity for outreach so you all know when you need to jump up and do something. But along the way, you should be paying attention because there are reports in the press that, you know, we can't keep track of everything. Nobody here can keep track of everything, and that's why it's so important for us to work as a collective, because we're all going to get bits of information that we can pull together, and that's Linda's point. Everybody should be talking to everybody so we all know what's going on. So I'm Rossum. I'm the Delaware Riverkeeper, and my organization is the Delaware Riverkeeper Network, and we work throughout the entire Delaware River watershed, giving it a voice, defending it and protecting it against harms like the PennEast Pipeline project. But so when you hear me speak, you know, whereas you hear New Jersey Sierra Club talk about New Jersey, right, or Linda or Karen talk, you know, more broadly, I'm talking about the Delaware River watershed primarily. I do want to say that Kate had up there some FERC links, right, for information. On the back of this brochure, which was done collectively by all of our organizations, which was out on the front table, on the back, there are some helpful links where you can get additional information. One of the helpful links there is the FERC website. So that's somewhere you're going to want to be going there and signing up and tapping into when the time is right. But you will find that link on the back of this brochure. You'll also find links to all of our organizational websites where you can get additional materials that talk to you in great depth and detail about pipeline projects and the harms that they inflict, how they inflict those harms, and what you can do about it. And we all have this building library as we unfortunately have to deal with these pipeline projects that are cutting across our communities. So please make sure you get this brochure. Make sure you tap into those resources. When a pipeline cuts through a community, it literally cuts through a community. It will cut through the forest. It will cut through the creeks. It will cut through the wetlands. It will cut through the... My clicker's not working. It'll cut through the residential communities close to homes, right? So if you are in a community where a pipeline is cutting through, it is literally cutting through and nothing will stand in its way. When a pipeline comes in, it's not just the pipeline. It's not just this massive right-of-way that comes into your community, but other infrastructure necessary to service the pipeline comes in. So every 50 or 60 miles, there's one of these massive compressor stations that are necessary to push the gas through the pipeline. These compressor stations bring with them their own impervious footprint, their own pollution to the air, to the water, to the land, to the quality of your lives, to your community. Roads have to come in. I think I told you you'd start clicking when I wasn't clicking. So when they come in, don't just remember, it's not just the pipeline, it's the infrastructure that comes in with that pipeline. And you need to be thinking about these pipeline projects cumulatively. So when you're thinking about the PennEast Pipeline project, try not to just think about the cut through your community. Try to think about the entire length of the pipeline project and what that means in terms of devastation and harm, because the cumulative impacts of a pipeline can be very dramatic. And just the forest cuts are one example. Right? And you don't want to just think about cumulative impacts across a single pipeline, across the PennEast pipeline, but you want to think about the cumulative impacts of all the pipelines that might be crossing through your community, through your watershed, through your state. And I think that this factoid about the forest impacts from pipelines done by the Nature Conservancy in Pennsylvania sort of gives you a sense of why cumulative impacts are so important. As many as 150,000 acres of forest in Pennsylvania could be lost because of pipeline infrastructure that's cutting through to service the Marcellus Shale. So if you were thinking about just one community, maybe not so much loss. When you're thinking about all these pipeline projects, huge, massive damage that is being inflicted on our region, on our river, and on all of our communities. Sorry that the names aren't there. I'll do another slide that gives you the names. This is a map that you'll find on the Delaware Riverkeeper Network website. And what it's intending to show you are the pipeline projects that have gone through our community recently. There are 11 pipeline projects that have cut through the Delaware River watershed in the last 3 years alone. There are 7 more that are proposed, including the PennEast Pipeline project. So when you're thinking about cumulative impacts, remember, we've already had 11 cuts. We've got 7 more potential cuts to come, so you want to be thinking about that. And when you're commenting to FERC, when you're commenting to your town officials, when you're commenting to other state or federal agencies that might have to give permits or approvals for these projects, you want to be talking about the cumulative impact, the cumulative harm, because that sends a much stronger message to these agencies that have to engage in decision making. Historically, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission has done a very poor job at thinking about and looking at cumulative impacts. And they've even allowed pipeline projects to take a single pipeline and cut it up into little pieces. And if you were to go back to that pipeline map that I had there, which you'll see on the Delaware Riverkeeper Network website, you'll actually see a single pipeline. It's really just a series of colored dashes. Clearly one pipeline project. But the pipeline company submitted it to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission for approval as 4 separate pipeline projects, because then the cumulative harm is far less. And so it was easier for them to get permit approvals from FERC and from other agencies. Go back. But because of a lawsuit that was brought by the Delaware Riverkeeper Network, by New Jersey Sierra Club, and by the New Jersey Highlands Coalition, on one of these pipeline projects that cut through the upper reaches of the watershed, we got a very important legal decision out of a federal court just a few months ago. So it's a fresh decision, and one of the first places we're going to see how it gets applied is with this PennEast Pipeline project. And here, the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals said to the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, you do have to start thinking about cumulative impacts. You cannot allow these pipeline companies to break up their projects into little itty-bitty pieces. And so that should help us as we move forth, commenting, reviewing, thinking about these PennEast Pipeline projects. But despite this important legal win, which is having ramifications across the nation, the XL Pipeline Company or project, there was already cited it. I mean, it's being cited all over the country. So it's very powerful and very important. But even if it's implemented properly by FERC, I think that it's not going to do the best job at ensuring cumulative impacts are considered. It's just the nature of the FERC beast and the nature of the process. But here in the Delaware River watershed, we have an agency, a unique agency, an important agency, a powerful agency that really can ensure the cumulative impacts of the PennEast Pipeline project as it cuts through our communities, as it cuts through our river, and the accumulation of harm between that project and other projects really are given serious consideration. And that is an entity called the Delaware River Basin Commission. The Delaware River Basin Commission is a regulatory body made up of the 4 watershed states, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Delaware, as well as the federal government. They have very broad authority. We have petitioned them on multiple occasions, and I don't mean a petition like a citizen's petition. I mean a legal petition that Delaware Riverkeeper Network and others have submitted to urge them to exercise that authority over pipeline projects. For a long time, they said no, no, no. There was a crack in the door last year where they said, you know what? 2 of these pipeline projects that you petitioned us about, we agree, we need to review them. The problem is those projects had already gone through. This is the first project. It's a greenfields project, over 100 miles of our Delaware River watershed, over 1,200 acres of land directly impacted, multiple cuts through streams, through wetlands, through the Delaware River itself are going to be happening. This is the first strongest opportunity we have to get the Delaware River Basin Commission to exercise their authority. They have great power. So we submitted a formal petition last week to the commissioners themselves at their meeting, but we have for you tonight an action alert which will give you the language. You can just sign it, you can leave it here, we'll submit it for you, so that you each can submit your own legal petition to the DRBC to urge them to exercise their authority. And I really believe with this project we have a great opportunity to get them to act on this particular project. And if we get the DRBC to act, it will be very meaningful. So I urge you, please, sign this, leave it behind, sign it, send it in, take it home, copy it, share it. Very important opportunity for all of us.
Is that better coming from individuals or from
Well,
townships?
all of it, everybody.
Yeah.
You know, every township should do it. Township should do resolutions. But we wanted to make sure we had an opportunity for you here tonight. The other thing that I want to say, when we're thinking about the PennEast Pipeline project, when we're thinking about any of these pipeline projects, one of the most important things I would encourage you not to do is don't say this pipeline is not okay in my community, but it's okay in theirs. Because if you say that, I guarantee that the people in that community are saying the very same thing, and they're saying, not in my community, put it over there. And as soon as that starts happening and community is pointing to community to say, you'll do less damage if you cut through, you know, their forests, through their residential neighborhoods. As soon as the battle over the PennEast Pipeline project becomes that kind of debate, the pipeline company has won. Because all they have to do is stand back and let you battle it amongst yourselves. They know they'll get their pipeline project. It's just a matter of where and when. It's not a matter of if. But if we stand collectively and say, we don't need this pipeline project, we have a much better chance of winning and defeating it. The other part of the messaging that comes along with that, the reason why we don't need this pipeline project, I would suggest you should be saying, is because we don't want or we don't need shale gas development. Drilling and fracking is happening in communities across Pennsylvania and inflicting an incredible level of devastation. It's destroying the value of people's homes. It's polluting their drinking water. It's polluting their air. It's damaging the health of children and adults and the elderly alike. It's impacting their ability to educate their kids because the drilling is happening near schools and near parklands. It's harming recreation. It's harming the jobs associated with all of these things. Incredible, incredible devastation is resulting from shale gas development. The PennEast Pipeline project is designed to service shale gas drilling. The more pipelines like PennEast we have, the more drilling we have. The more drilling we have, the more PennEast Pipeline projects we have. They're synonymous. So it's very important, I would suggest to you, when you are fighting the PennEast Pipeline project, you should be saying, we don't need this pipeline, we don't want this pipeline because we don't want shale gas development. And I will say that you have some very strong and building allies in the message that shale gas development does harm. You don't just have the reams of science and scientists that are putting forth more and more information every day to tell us how devastating shale gas development is. But now, again, because of a piece of litigation that the Delaware Riverkeeper Network brought with 7 towns challenging this very pro-drilling piece of legislation in Pennsylvania, we have a Supreme Court ruling from quite a conservative Pennsylvania Supreme Court and a conservative Supreme Court Chief Justice that uses language like this against shale gas development, that shale gas development does violence to the landscape, that it has a lasting and undeniably detrimental impact on the quality of core aspects of Pennsylvania's environment, that it has detrimental impacts on the environment, not just of present generations, but of future generations. And I think we skipped a slide, but that's okay. You get the message. So even a conservative Supreme Court justice is now standing with you to say shale gas development is not what we want in our communities. It's inflicting incredible harm and devastation. And I will always also suggest to you, if you include in your messaging against the PennEast Pipeline project that shale gas development is a bad idea, not only do you have all of your allies who are also fighting this PennEast Pipeline project, but you have the whole growing universe of people across Pennsylvania, across New Jersey, across New York, across the nation, and even across the world who will be standing with you because they want to see you carry forth that same message. We shouldn't have pipelines because we don't want drilling. We shouldn't have drilling, therefore we don't need pipelines. So you grow the universe of allies if you include that in your messaging. The pipeline company is going to be giving you a lot of information, and they already are, about how this gas is going to reduce your gas prices. I would not take that information at face value. What is happening increasingly is that this gas is being piped to other places so that it can be turned into liquefied natural gas and shipped overseas, where they can sell it for 4 times the cost than they can sell it for here in the United States. This PennEast Pipeline project hooks into another pipeline that eventually could make its way down to Dominion Cove in Maryland, which is a recent LNG proposal. So don't believe that this is about creating gas to keep gas in this country. That is not what's going on with these pipelines and with shale gas development. We can just skip this one. And I think the most important thing to add to your messaging when we're thinking big picture, the reason why we don't need shale gas development, the reason why we don't need drilling and fracking, the reason why we don't need the PennEast Pipeline project is because we don't need them to fuel our future energy needs. Sustainable energy is truly an option that is here today. Solar, wind, geothermal, there are all kinds of truly sustainable energy options that are available today. There are multiple plans and reports, detailed plans and reports, telling New York, telling California, soon to tell Pennsylvania, telling the United States, even telling the world how they can get fully fueled by sustainable energy options and conservation in just a few decades to come. So that's the reason why we don't need the pipeline and why we don't need the drilling, because we need sustainable energy options instead, and they are available today to each and every one of us. And I know it because that's my house in Bryn Mawr, just outside of Philadelphia, and I have solar panels. So it really is here today. And just the final thing is to really embrace the words of the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. There are lots of ins and outs to that decision, but the most important thing I think that you want to take away and really embrace is what the Pennsylvania Supreme Court Chief Justice said, that our right to pure water, clean air, and a healthy environment are inherent and indefeasible rights. They are not rights given to us by law. They are rights that must be protected by law. They are rights that belong to us here today, but they are also rights that belong to future generations, and that's what we need to be fighting for, not just for ourselves, but all of those communities to come who deserve the pure water, the clean air, the healthy environments of the Delaware River watershed, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and the entire region and nation. So thank you so much for coming today.